So, welcome to the Racer Roundtable. Hope you're all having a great day. The 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring is happening this week. After this race is the summer break, where there will be no races for like 4 or 5 weeks. Factories are shut down, and this is the teams and drivers' last opportunity to make an impression before we come back for Spa. And I'm going to give you an overview of the facts of this track. So, this race is just outside Budapest, and the first Grand Prix that it held was in 1986. Ever since then, it's been on the calendar, I think. So it's been on the calendar for 36 years. First race behind the Iron Curtain, which is basically the first race in a communist country. 70 laps. It's one of 4 or 5 tracks that have over 70 laps. And the lap record is a 1:16.627 by Lewis Hamilton in that Mercedes, which was a rocket ship. That car was beautiful, and it was the fastest F1 car in history. So this track is very challenging for drivers. It's very challenging for drivers because you're always doing something. The only break they have is the main straight. And you've got 2 DRS zones, they're back to back after turn 1. One on the main straight and then after turn 1, that like mini straight there. It's a tough track, it's demanding. You've got that middle sector, which earns the Hungaroring the name of Monaco without the barriers. I haven't really heard it used in recent years, but that's what it used to be called. That's what probably is still called by pundits and stuff like that. Monaco without barriers. It's tight, it's twisty, and you don't really have enough time to rest. The only break they have is at main straight, and they're only there for like maybe 15 seconds or less. So there's not really much time to have a break, and you've got to do this for 70 laps, so it's a demanding track. Lewis Hamilton, I think, has won the most races here. I think he's won maybe 6 or 7 races here in his career. I can think of 2013, 2016 maybe. Lewis Hamilton is usually very good here. It's one of his favorite tracks, and it also kind of suits Mercedes. This track suits Lewis Hamilton a lot. I think he's won the most races of any driver here. And Mercedes actually are pretty decent here. Well, with the previous generation of cars. In 2013, Lewis won his first race for Mercedes at this track. The Mercedes was just too good for everyone else. Even though that year, that 2013 Mercedes, really abused its rear tires. It was so bad. So it's very surprising that the Mercedes was able to control its tire wear that weekend in 2013 because the temperature was hot. And this track is notorious for being hard on the tires a bit, because you've got a big braking zone in turn 1. You've got turn 3, which you need to have patience there. You've got the twisty section, which makes the tires even hotter. And maybe this year will be a bit different because different construction, different aims for the tires. But back then, when Pirelli initially came to the sport, between 2011 and basically last year, tires would suffer. The tires would really suffer and overheat. Because look at the last corner, turn 14. It's going to be hard on the left front. So drivers need to be able to, especially on a qualifying lap, you need to be able to manage your tires. You need to have the tires for the middle sector. Do not take the life out of them in the first sector. Most of the time will be gained in the middle sector and the last sector. So don't be surprised if drivers are maybe going a bit slower in the first sector, just so that they could save the tires for the middle sector and the final sector, because that's where most time is gained. So let's look at the weather. And as of this recording of this video, Saturday qualifying is going to be wet. 66% chance of rain. Now, I'm assuming qualifying will be wet, which may jumble up the grid, create some interesting results for Sunday's race. And Sunday itself, it may rain. It's going to rain in the morning, but will that moisture last into the beginning of the race? How much rain will fall? Like this says 38% chance of rain as I'm looking at it right now on this day. But will that rain be taken out? I think maybe F2 or maybe racing here, I don't know. But if there's no support races, then that rain will last longer on the track. So it will be interesting start of the race, interesting qualifying. Practice will be dry, I think. So these guys are they going to set up the car to be fast in qualifying in the wet, but a bit slower in the dry? Or are they going to set up the cars for a potentially dry race? So because you need downforce here. You need downforce. That middle sector is no joke. If you've driven it on the F1 game, it's no joke. You have to be accurate. You need the downforce to be able to be accurate through those corners, through the middle sector and the last sector. So you need high downforce anyway. So maybe drivers will go towards a more of a wet setup per se, not too extreme, but in the wet weather region. That's probably where they'll set up their car. And this track was relayed over the course of 2015 and 2016. And I think also before recently, maybe past 5 years or so, this track was mainly just for F1. Like no other series would race there. So when F1 got there by the time of the year everyone got there. For free practice 1 and 2, the track was dusty, no grip. So practice 1 and 2 wouldn't really show a representative performance of the cars, of the drivers. Only free practice 3 qualifying the race, so I think that's changed now. They have different races there, different series there, so it's not going to be as dusty, and it's going to be a bit grippy. The grip will develop year after year after year. So as a result of that, the track shouldn't be really bumpy. Mercedes may come into play, and by that I mean pace-wise, not like challenging for wins or something, but maybe within a chance of a podium if something happens, or affecting the 2 leading teams' pit strategies, because Mercedes have been affecting their strategies. Austria, for example, and France as well. You couldn't really pit too early, or else you would be stuck behind the Mercedes, because the Mercedes will block you. So the Hungaroring it shouldn't be as bumpy as it has been before. I'm pretty sure it's been bumpy before, I'm not sure, but the surface should be alright for the drivers, should be alright for porpoising, bouncing, etc. Mercedes should be alright, because they seem to be the most susceptible big team for porpoising. And Haas are going to be interesting to watch, because they were supposed to bring upgrades in France, I think, but they've delayed it and brought it into for this weekend for Hungary. I heard a rumour online that Mick Schumacher has taken a penalty at this race, but then I heard a further rumour that will be in Belgium. So if I were Haas, I'd do it at Belgium, because it's easier to overtake in Belgium. The Hungaroring, look, prime overtaking spots, turn 1, turn 2, turn 12 if you're close enough. Check out Kimi Räikkönen's overtake in 2016. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. Hungarian Grand Prix, overtake on a Sauber. Man was doing rallying skills at turn 12. So if you're close enough, you could get it done. And the final corner, final corner is important. In qualifying, you need to set yourself up well. Take a wide line, then touch the apex, which is basically the barrier on the inside, to get as straight a line as possible to get on the accelerator as early as possible. Because that straight is long, and you want to have as high a speed as possible going to turn 1. And in the race, you want to set up the guy you're trying to overtake. So take a wider line, get out the dirty air, the hot air, cut in again to try and get as close as possible to the inside of the apex or the barrier, and just zoom off. Just try and open the DRS as early as possible, get overtake done. And then you also want to set them up. If you can't overtake them on the main straight, you want to set them up into turn 1. So what you do is you make them think you're going for the overtake. Maybe you go to the inside, but go back to the racing line, and they may have to defend the inside, compromise the exit, and then you have a better line by staying to the racing line, but turning in a bit later, cutting into the apex on the inside, having as straight a line as possible, just like the final corner, and having brilliant exit. And then you try and be able to overtake into turn 2, probably the outside, because most people defend the inside into turn 2. Watch, and again, another recommendation, watch Lewis Hamilton's overtake. I think it was on Mark Webber in 2013. I think that was his race-winning overtake around the outside. That Mercedes, that whole weekend, that Mercedes was really fast in turn 2. So check out that overtake. Also, Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton in 2014. Again, he set him up. He had great traction. He had fresher tyres than Lewis and Fernando, and he went round the outside of Lewis and in turn 2 and got the job done. So overtaking is possible. You need the help of the RS. You need to have pretty much better tyres, much better tyres than the guy in front of you, and you'll be good to go, because that's pretty much the only overtaking spots you have. Turn 12 is a half chance, really. That's it. And it will also be intriguing to see whether the cars will be able to follow well during the middle sector, because look at the middle sector. Look at how twisty that is. It's a very technical section. The drivers need to be accurate. Cars need to be well balanced, have enough downforce to be able to sustain those corners. And you need to also manage your tyres. So it could be a 2-stop. I don't know what compounds they're using, but I highly, highly, highly doubt we'll be seeing the softest compounds. It may be a case of Silverstone, or in the middle of the range, maybe I think there's 5 compounds, so maybe C4, C3, C2, maybe. I don't think we'll see a step in terms of maybe C5 and then C3, C2. I think it'll be C4, C3, C2. But yeah, tyres are going to be the name of the game at this track. And I've actually gone and searched it up, and I was right. They're going to use C4, C3, C2. That's the logical choice. They're not going to bring C5s. It will just obliterate. So, and having this C3, C2, C1, that's too hard. So middle of the range is good. That's ideal. There won't be a big step, like I said. So yeah, I was actually right. Crazy. And now we know the tyre compounds. I want to talk about the favourites. And Ferrari, without a shadow of a doubt, have to be favourites for this race. No complaints whatsoever. You've got the cornering speed. Hungary is all about medium speed corners. The Ferrari has the downforce, and Red Bull is a straight line speed merchant car and capable in the corners. Ferrari is a high speed, mid to high speed cornering merchant car. So Ferrari, please, I am asking that you do this one thing. Don't screw up this race for yourselves. Please. This is like a slam dunk win for Ferrari. Seriously. I'm being serious right now. The Ferrari is suited to this track. They should drive away from the Red Bull. Seriously. The Ferrari is faster than the Red Bull in the corners. The only difference is the Red Bull is really fast in a straight line and is capable enough in the corners to be able to be faster on some occasions and to stick with the Ferrari. And it also depends on the track. Look, it has to be a Ferrari 1-2. It has to be. No excuses. And Sainz got a fresh engine in. It doesn't really matter here. This is not a power circuit. You only need the power for the main straight, and then after turn 1 and the run up to turn 4. That's pretty much it. You don't really need the power. It's just mainly the main straight, to be honest. So it's all about cornering, all about downforce, all about the efficiency of your aerodynamics. It's a must that Ferrari get a 1-2. You have to bounce back. You kind of cost Sainz P3. Leclerc makes the mistake. No excuses. # no excuses. This has to be a win for Ferrari. Red Bull will come third. Probably Max will finish second or third in this race. Lewis Hamilton should, I wouldn't say easily, but he should visibly beat George Russell. It should be clear. Lewis Hamilton should finish like 4th or 5th, or 4th, 5th, roughly, maybe 5th. Depending on what happens in front of him. And because he's got 8 wins at this track, I think, which is the same as Michael Schumacher. Like I said, he's got a lot of wins. There's no excuses for Lewis. He has to beat George Russell here. And I'm going to be intrigued by the team dynamics at Aston Martin because, as I said in my French Grand Prix reaction, check that video out if you haven't already. Look, Lance Stroll, you're a bang average driver. You're only in F1 because your dad is rich and owns the team. If it were down to me, you would not be in F1. You'd be dropped. You'd be gone. It would be Vettel and someone else. I know Vettel was past his best, but he can still do a job. Lance Stroll, however, he's not it. And you have the audacity to brake mid-corner. Actually, not even mid-corner. It's more towards the exit of the corner to stop your teammate from overtaking you. Yeah, yes, you want the points, etc., but it's only 1 point. And you've barely got any this season. So I guess he's desperate, even for 1 point. And like I said in my preview, he wants to show his dad that he can get points in this gutter trash Aston Martin car. He wants to show to his dad that he can do the job, he can lead the team. Man, Lance, you're not that good, man. And I also wonder, do these drivers, are they realistic with their talent? Do they realize that they are not as good as their teammate or not as good as maybe they profess themselves to be? Because Lance Stroll, you're average. You're better than Latifi, but barely, So Vettel, it'll be interesting to see if Vettel will be faster than Stroll here. Vettel is actually quite decent at Hungary, And if you've been watching F1 for 5+ years, you'll know that Sebastian won the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2017 with a damaged Ferrari because the car was steering to one side. I think it was the left-hand side. So on a straight, the car would want to go to the left and it wouldn't go straight. It would want to go to the left. So he had to deal with that the whole race. And Kimi was faster than Vettel as well. But the team said, no, Sebastian's in the championship fight. You're not. So you stay behind and you keep Lewis away. So Sebastian can overcome adversity here and get a job done and get the win. So it will be interesting to see if he outqualifies and outraces Lance Stroll here. He should. He really should, because he's faster than Lance. Lance is not good. Another talking point I want to discuss is Sergio Perez. After being absolutely embarrassed and showed up by George Russell doing that virtual safety car in the French Grand Prix, how is he going to react? He's only got a number of days to gather himself, relax, travel to Budapest and get his head down because he needs to show up. The French Grand Prix, the whole weekend, he was poor. He was really poor. He was just off the pace completely the whole weekend. So it was so bad. Lewis jumped him at the start and he couldn't overtake him in a slower car, So is that going to continue into this weekend? And if it does, I guarantee you there'll be people on Twitter saying that Red Bull have given Sergio the old floor, not the old floor, the new floor that is legal and not flexi floor, and that's why he's slower. And they're testing it on him rather than Max. I mean, I highly doubt that's true because why would they do that? They want to maximize points. Of course, you're going to run an illegal floor as long as you get away with it, So that's not true. However, Sergio, you have no excuses here. You knew what you were getting yourself into. The development is going away from you. But at the beginning of the season, the car was more suited. It wasn't as extreme as last year's car, So you actually had a chance at the beginning of the season, but you didn't really show that you could beat Max, could you? So Max was still beating you. So I mean, these drivers, man, they have to realize this is what's going to happen. If you're not as fast as Max, we're gonna develop the car towards Max. And even then, they probably do it anyway because Max is their golden child. And yes, Perez was fast in Monaco, which is tight and twisty. Yes, it was fast at Saudi Arabia, which is a twisty circuit. But this is mostly medium speed corners. I don't think Sergio will be that competitive here. I don't. Max could even get P2, but with Sainz is in form. Don't forget, Sainz is in form. So Sergio could be ending up 4th, 5th, 6th. You know, depending on how what Mercedes shows up. And Lewis will be a threat because he's really fast here. He's really fast here. So Sergio, you need to pray for the best because you could be ending up 4th, 5th, 6th. Seriously. So yeah, that's pretty much my Hungarian Grand Prix preview. I'm going to be making my predictions now. I predict Charles 1st, Carlos 2nd, Max 3rd, slam dunk. That's surely going to happen. Ferrari need to do something. They need to get 1-2 before the summer break starts because they're starving themselves of victories. They've thrown away so many victories. It's crazy. I'm telling you, if Enzo Ferrari was still alive, some of these guys would have been sacked. I'm serious. Bonotto would probably be sacked. The strategist would be gone. He'd bring in his own people. See, I guarantee you, Enzo Ferrari would be pissed at what's going on because Ferrari have built a great car and they're throwing results away. Charles is throwing results away. Sainz threw results away earlier in the season. You know, so Enzo Ferrari would be very disgusted with these guys, seriously. So there's no excuses for Ferrari. Like I said, Charles Leclerc 1st, Carlos Sainz 2nd, Max Verstappen 3rd. Has to happen. Mercedes may surprise by getting a podium, but I think that depends on whether someone in the front has a bad stop or something or crashes out or something like that. So expect a safety car here as well. Expect a safety car and expect a crash at some point, probably at the first lap. This track is highly susceptible to a first lap crash. Look at turn 1 last year, you know. So let me know your predictions. Who do you think will finish on the podium? Which team do you think will show up and say what's up and be the best team of the weekend? Do you think it will be Mercedes? Do you think it will be Ferrari? Do you think Ferrari will utterly dominate the field? Or do you think maybe Haas with their upgrades will maybe go into the region of McLaren? Because they haven't upgraded their car all year and look, they still have a decent car. So could they go up to McLaren's level and be team of the weekend and get a good result? Or do you think another team will get a good result? Do you think another driver will be driver of the day? Who are your podium predictions? All sorts of things. So yeah. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Adios. Goodbye.